Mia Chen, a 7th grade math whiz and spelling bee champion, finds herself completely unprepared when she develops a massive crush on the school's coolest kid, Luke Patterson, an artistic skater who has been suspended twice. Convinced that love can be solved like a complicated equation, Mia devises a 3-part scientific plan involving proximity, joining Luke's art club, and shared interests, faking a passion for fantasy books. Follow Mia's hilariously awkward journey as her logical strategies spectacularly backfire, ultimately leading her to discover the true, vulnerable person behind Luke's cool kid facade. The absolutely true guide to winning over Luke Patterson, a scientific analysis by Mia Chen, age 13. Chapter 1, The Problem. The thing about falling in love in 7th grade is that nobody prepares you for it. They prepare you for periods with those weird videos that make everyone want to die. They prepare you for algebra with Mr. Henderson's monotone voice that could put a hummingbird to sleep. They even prepare you for the eventual heat death of the universe in Mrs. Rodriguez's Earth Science class. But love? Total radio silence. Which is why I, Mia Chen, found myself completely unprepared on a random Tuesday in October when Luke Patterson walked into homeroom wearing a backwards baseball cap and a hoodie with paint stains on it, and my entire brain just stopped working. "Close your mouth, you're gonna catch flies," my best friend Jasmine whispered, elbowing me in the ribs. I snapped my mouth shut. I wasn't. You were literally drooling. I have excess saliva. It's a medical condition. It's called being thirsty, and I don't mean for water. I turned to glare at her, but she was already grinning like she just discovered the secret to unlimited TikTok followers. This was bad. If Jasmine knew, everyone would know by lunch period. She had the secret-keeping abilities of a sieve. Luke slid into a desk 3 rows ahead of us, immediately pulling out his sketchbook. This was his thing. He was always drawing. Monsters, dragons, elaborate fantasy landscapes that belonged in actual museums. He was also the only kid in 7th grade who'd been suspended twice, once for spray painting a mural on the side of the gym, once for accidentally setting off the fire alarm during a math test, who could do a kickflip on his skateboard, and who had somehow convinced Principal Morrison to let him start an art club. He was, objectively speaking, the coolest person at Jefferson Middle School. And I was, objectively speaking, the most decidedly uncool. Evidence. I was in the advanced math class, social suicide. I brought bento boxes for lunch that my mom packed, double social suicide. I had won the school spelling bee in 6th grade, triple social suicide with a side of eternal damnation. My idea of rebellion was returning library books a day late. We existed in completely different ecosystems. He was a peacock, all flash and color and confidence. I was a pigeon, common, overlooked, probably carrying diseases. "Earth to Mia," Jasmine waved her hand in front of my face. "You're doing the thing again." "What thing?" "The thing where you stare at Luke like he's a complicated math problem you're trying to solve." "I do not." "You literally have your math face on right now. You know, the one where you bite your bottom lip and your eyes get all squinty." I released my lip. "That's just my face." "Uh-huh, sure." Mrs. Patterson, no relation to Luke, we'd all checked, started taking attendance, but I wasn't listening. I was too busy having what Jasmine would call an epiphany and what I would call a complete mental breakdown. Because here's the thing, I didn't just think Luke was cute. I didn't just want him to notice me. I wanted to understand him. I wanted to know why he drew dragons in the margins of his history notes, and why he always wore the same ratty Converse, even though he could probably afford new ones, and why, sometimes, when he thought no one was looking, he seemed almost sad. I wanted to know everything, which meant I needed a plan. Chapter 2. The Plan. Absolutely not. "You haven't even heard my plan yet," I protested, following Jasmine to our lockers. "I don't need to. You have that look on your face. The same look you had before you tried to scientifically prove that the cafeteria pizza was only 30% actual cheese. It was 28%, and I stand by my research." Jasmine spun the combination on her locker, which was decorated with so many K-pop stickers you couldn't see the original blue paint anymore. My locker, by comparison, had a periodic table poster and a motivational cat that said hang in there. My mom had put it up on the first day of school. I didn't have the heart to take it down. Look, I said, pulling out my notebook. I've been doing research. Of course you have. And I've identified 3 key strategies for making someone notice you. I flipped to the page where I'd spent all of English class creating a detailed chart. Mrs. Kowalski had been discussing metaphors. I considered this a better use of my time. Operation: make Luke Patterson realize I exist. Strategy 1: proximity. Scientific fact: people tend to like people they see more often. It's called the mere exposure effect. I read about it. Action items: be near Luke more, not in a creepy way. Strategy 2: shared interests. Scientific fact: people bond over common activities. Action items: find out what Luke likes and also like those things. Problem: I already tried skateboarding last summer and broke my wrist. Strategy 3: the mysterious allure. Scientific fact: people are intrigued by mystery. Action items: be mysterious and intriguing. Problem: I once cried during a Pixar movie trailer in front of the entire class, so my mysterious credentials are questionable. Jasmine studied my notebook with the same expression my mom made when I tried to explain cryptocurrency. Mia, sweetie, you can't just plan love. It doesn't work like that. Everything works like something. Love is just chemistry and psychology and you're doing it again. What? Trying to solve feelings like they're a math problem. She closed my notebook gently. Maybe just talk to him? I stared at her like she'd suggested I swim with sharks. Hungry sharks. Sharks who hadn't eaten in weeks and had a particular taste for awkward 7th graders. Talk to him? I repeated. Yeah. Use words. Form sentences. It's this new thing humans are doing. Jasmine. Jazzy. Light of my life. I gripped her shoulders. I can't just talk to him. Do you know what happened last time I tried to talk to a boy I liked? That was 5th grade and you threw up on Marcus Chen because you had the stomach flu. Exactly. I'm a disaster. You had the stomach flu, she repeated. It wasn't psychological. My body manifested my internal panic as a physical illness. It was totally psychological. Jasmine sighed the way my dad sighed when I asked for a puppy for the 700th time. Fine. What's strategy 1 again? Proximity! And how exactly are you planning to execute this proximity without being creepy? I grinned. This was the part I was proud of. Art club. Luke runs art club. Art club meets every Thursday after school in room 214. I'm going to join art club. You can't draw. I'll learn. Mia, last year in art class, you drew a horse that looked like a deformed potato. Mr. Kim said it was abstract. Mr. Kim was being nice. He's paid to be nice. But I was already walking away, pulled by the gravitational force of my terrible plan. Behind me, Jasmine called out, "This is going to be a disaster." She wasn't wrong, but maybe some disasters were worth it. Chapter 3: Art Club, or How I Learned I'm Terrible at Everything. Thursday arrived with the inevitability of a math test you forgot to study for. I'd spent the previous 2 nights watching YouTube videos with titles like Drawing for Beginners and How to Draw Like a Pro in 5 Minutes. Spoiler alert, I could not draw like a pro in 5 minutes. I couldn't draw like a pro in 5 hours. I couldn't draw like a pro in 5 years, probably. But I'd promised myself I'd go through with this. So at 3 p.m., I stood outside room 214, clutching a brand new sketchbook from the dollar store and a set of pencils my mom had enthusiastically purchased, thinking I was finally developing an artistic side. I could hear voices inside. Laughter, the sound of cool, artistic people being cool and artistic. You can do this, I whispered to myself. You've done harder things. You've given presentations. You've done the presidential fitness test. You've survived family reunions where Aunt Susan asks about your grades. I pushed open the door. The art room was chaos in the best way. Paintings covered every wall, sculptures made from random objects perched on shelves, and the smell of paint and clay and creativity filled the air. About a dozen kids were scattered around, working on various projects. And there, at the front table, sat Luke Patterson. He was mid-laugh at something a girl named Riley had said, his hair falling in his eyes, a paint smudge on his cheek. My heart did this weird flippy thing that couldn't possibly be healthy. "Can I help you?" I jumped. Mrs. Chen, also no relation to me, also verified, had appeared next to me. She was the art teacher and had this whole bohemian thing going on with her flowing scarves and paint-stained overalls. I wanted to join art club. Please say yes, please say yes, please say... Wonderful! We always need new members. Have you done much art before? Define much. She smiled. Why don't you grab a seat and start with whatever inspires you? We're pretty informal here. The only rule is that you have to create something by the end of each session. Doesn't matter what. I nodded and scanned the room for a seat. There was one open spot, right next to Luke. Of course there was. The universe was either on my side or actively trying to kill me. I couldn't decide which. I shuffled over, trying to look casual and like I belonged here. Among the artists and the creative types, I definitely looked like someone walking to their execution, but we can't all be actors. "Hey," Luke said, not looking up from his sketch. "You're new." Words. I needed words. Words a thing I know. Yup, I managed. Nailed it. Cool. He still wasn't looking at me, his pencil moving in rapid strokes across the page. He was drawing some kind of dragon, all scales and wings and intricate detail. It was the kind of good that made my dollar store supplies feel like a personal conflict. I sat down and opened my sketchbook to a blank page. The paper seemed to mock me with its pristine whiteness. So many possibilities, so many ways to embarrass myself. I picked up a pencil, put it down, picked it up again. What did I even draw? What inspired me? I glanced at Luke. Well, obviously him. But I couldn't just draw Luke. That was serial killer behavior. That's what serial killers did in movies, right before the police found their creepy wall of photos. So I started drawing something, a shape, then another shape. Then some lines that might be trees, or maybe buildings, or maybe just random lines, because I had no idea what I was doing. Is that a cat? I jumped again. I was doing a lot of jumping today. Luke was looking at my paper, his head tilted. I looked down at my drawing. It did not look like a cat. It looked like something that had maybe once been a cat, but had a terrible accident involving a blender. "It's abstract," I said. His lips twitched. "Right, abstract. Cool." Then he went back to his dragon, and I went back to my abstract cat thing, and we sat in silence for a while. But it was the kind of silence that felt like it meant something. Or maybe I was just oxygen deprived from forgetting to breathe every time I remembered how close we were sitting. I tried to focus on my drawing. I added some more lines, then some shading, like the YouTube videos had taught me. It didn't help. If anything, it made it worse. Now it looked like an abstract cat that had been through a blender and then left out in the sun too long. "You know," Luke said suddenly, "Mrs. Chen says there's no such thing as bad art, only art that isn't finished yet." I looked at him. He was still focused on his dragon, adding tiny scales to its tail. "Is that true?" I asked. He shrugged. "Probably not. Some art is definitely bad, but it's a nice thing to say." And then he smiled, not at me, but at his own drawing. And I felt that smile in my entire chest, like someone had turned on a light inside me. This was going to be so much harder than I thought. Chapter 4. The Problem with Proximity. Over the next 2 weeks, I attended every art club meeting. My artistic skills did not improve. If anything, they got worse. I drew 1 extremely sad-looking flower, 3 geometric shapes that were supposed to be a landscape, 1 portrait of Jasmine that she said looked like a Victorian ghost who died of sadness, several abstract pieces that even Mrs. Chen struggled to compliment. But I did learn things about Luke. He always got a Monster energy drink from the vending machine before art club. He hummed while he drew, usually songs I didn't recognize. He was left-handed. He had a little scar above his right eyebrow, skateboarding accident, allegedly. When he concentrated, he stuck his tongue out slightly, and it was the cutest thing I'd ever seen in my entire life. What I didn't learn? How to actually talk to him beyond hey and cool, and one memorable conversation about whether the art room sink was broken. It was. "This is painful to watch," Jasmine said at lunch one day. We were at our usual table by the window, far from the popular kids, but with a strategic view of most of the cafeteria. "What is?" I asked innocently, unwrapping my sushi roll. "You, with Luke. You've been in art club for 2 weeks, and you've had, 3 actual conversations? 5 conversations. Mia. 4 if we're not counting the time I asked him to pass the paintbrushes." Jasmine dropped her head onto the table. "You're hopeless. I'm strategic. This is strategy 1, proximity. Rome wasn't built in a day, Jazz. These things take time. Rome also eventually fell. That's a completely different. You're mixing your metaphors." She lifted her head. "Maybe you need to move on to strategy 2. I considered this. Strategy 2 was shared interests. The problem was I'd been so focused on art club, which I was failing at, that I hadn't properly researched Luke's other interests. You're right. I need more data. That's not what you know what? Never mind. What kind of data? I need to know what he likes, what he's interested in, what makes him tick. That's called stalking. It's called research. In some states, it's called a restraining order. But I was already forming a plan. If I wanted to bond with Luke over shared interests, I needed to know what those interests were. And I knew exactly who to ask. Marcus Chen, no relation to me or Mrs. Chen, seriously, it's a common name, was in my math class and also happened to be friends with Luke. They played video games together sometimes. Marcus had once described Luke as pretty chill for an art kid. I found Marcus at his locker after school. "Oh no," he said immediately. "I know that look." "What look?" I asked innocently. "That look that means you want something and I'm going to regret getting involved." "I just have a simple question about Luke Patterson." Marcus slammed his locker shut. "Absolutely not. I'm not getting in the middle of whatever this is." "Whatever what is? I just want to know." "Listen, Mia, you're cool and everything, but Luke is my friend and I'm not going to help you stalk him or whatever." "I'm not stalking him. I just want to know what he's interested in so we can have something to talk about." Marcus studied me for a long moment. Then he sighed in that universal way that meant I'd won. "He's really into skating and music. He's been learning guitar. And those fantasy books, the Lightbringer series, he's obsessed with them." "The Lightbringer series," I repeated, committing it to memory. "Yeah, but Mia, maybe just be yourself. Luke's pretty chill. He doesn't really care about all the cool kid stuff as much as everyone thinks." I nodded, but I wasn't really listening. I had my data. Now I just needed to figure out what to do with it. Chapter 5. Becoming Someone I'm Not and Failing Spectacularly. The Lightbringer series consisted of 5 books, each roughly the size of a small refrigerator. I checked out the first one from the library that afternoon. "Light reading," Mr. Peters, the librarian, joked as he scanned it. "Extremely light," I agreed, my arms already aching from its weight. I spent the entire weekend reading. Well, trying to read. The Lightbringer series was about magic systems and political intrigue, and about 700 characters with similar-sounding names. I made flashcards. I created a family tree. I wrote notes in the margins like I was studying for the SATs. By Monday, I knew enough to be dangerous. My opportunity came during art club. Luke was working on a painting, a landscape that looked like something from a fantasy novel, all purple mountains and strange moons. "That looks like the Chromaria," I said, trying to sound casual. Luke's head snapped up. "You've read Lightbringer?" "Just started the first book." "Finished the first book, started the second, but who's counting?" His entire face lit up. "Dude, it's so good, right? The magic system is insane, and Gavin Guile is probably the best character in any fantasy series ever." "Totally," I agreed. I personally thought Gavin Guile was kind of a jerk, but now was not the time for literary criticism. And just like that, we were talking, actually talking. Luke told me about his favorite scenes, his theories about the later books, no spoilers, thankfully, why he thought the magic system was genius. I nodded and agreed and threw in my own observations when I could. It was working. Strategy 2 was actually working. "We should totally talk about it more," Luke said as art club was ending. "Are you going to keep reading?" "Definitely," I said, probably too enthusiastically. "Cool. Hey, a bunch of us usually hang out at Morrison Park on Saturday mornings. We skate and just chill. You should come." My brain short-circuited. Luke Patterson had just invited me to hang out, voluntarily, with him, on purpose. "Sure," I said. "That sounds cool." Cool. I'd said cool right now. "Awesome.
See you Saturday." He left, and I stood there in the art room holding my terrible abstract painting and feeling like I just won an Olympic gold medal. Jasmine found me 3 minutes later, still standing in the same spot. "Did you have a stroke?" she asked. "Luke invited me to hang out on Saturday." Her eyes widened. "No way!" "Yes way." "Mia, that's amazing. What are you going to do?" My smile faltered. "I don't know. What am I going to do? Jazz, they're going to be skateboarding. I can't skateboard. I broke my wrist trying to skateboard." "So don't skateboard. Just hang out." "But everyone else will be skateboarding. I'll be the only one not skateboarding. I'll look like an idiot." Jasmine grabbed my shoulders. "Mia, Chen, listen to me. You are smart, funny, and interesting exactly as you are. You don't need to skateboard or pretend to like books. I do like the books. Or be anyone other than yourself. If Luke can't see how cool you are without all that, then he's not worth it." She was right. I knew she was right. But knowing something and believing it are two different things. "I'm still going to practice skateboarding," I said. "Oh my God! Just a little, just so I don't completely embarrass myself." Jasmine looked at the ceiling like asking for divine intervention. "Please try not to break any bones this time." Chapter 6, Saturday morning, or Everything Falls Apart. I did not break any bones practicing skateboarding. This is because Jasmine physically prevented me from getting on the skateboard by sitting on it whenever I tried. Instead, we compromised. I would go to the park, hang out, be myself, and under no circumstances attempt any physical activities that could result in hospitalization. Saturday morning arrived with perfect weather and maximum anxiety. I changed my outfit 4 times, finally settling on jeans and a graphic tee that said Schrodinger's cat, wanted, dead, and alive. Jasmine had tried to talk me out of it. "You're wearing a quantum physics joke to hang out with skaters?" But I stood firm. This was me being myself. Morrison Park was busy when I arrived. Little kids on the playground, families having picnics, and over by the skate area, a group of teenagers who all looked infinitely cooler than me. I spotted Luke immediately. He was on his skateboard, attempting some kind of trick that involved the board flipping in the air. He landed it perfectly, and his friends cheered. I was going to vomit. "You came!" I turned to find Riley from art club approaching, her own skateboard tucked under her arm. She had purple streaks in her hair and the kind of confidence I would never possess. "Yeah, hi!" Too enthusiastic. "Dial it back, Mia." "Luke said he invited you. Cool. You skate?" "Not exactly. I'm more of a supporter of skating, a skating enthusiast, a skating theorist." She laughed,
Fair enough. Come on. She led me over to the group. Luke saw me and waved, which made my heart do that annoying flippy thing again. Hey, you made it. Yup, here I am, making it. Smooth, Mia. Really smooth. For a while, I just watched them skate. It was actually kind of nice. The sound of wheels on concrete, the casual banter, the way they all cheered each other on, even when someone fell. Luke kept trying to land this one complicated trick, failing, getting back up, trying again. That's a kickflip, someone explained. I turned to find a kid named David next to me. He's been working on it for weeks. It looks hard. Super hard. But when Luke wants to learn something, he just keeps trying until he gets it. I watched Luke attempt the trick again. Fail, get up, try again. Must be nice, I murmured. What? Being good at something. Being naturally talented. David snorted. Luke's not naturally talented. Dude practiced ollies for like 6 months before he could land one consistently. He just doesn't give up. Before I could process this, Luke successfully landed the kickflip. Everyone erupted in cheers, and he was grinning so wide I thought his face might split in half. Did you see that? He called to the group, skating over. Everyone had seen it. He'd been trying it for the last 20 minutes, but we all acted like it was the first time, celebrating like he'd just won the X Games. That was amazing, I said, and meant it. Thanks. Hey, did you finish more of the book? And just like that, we were sitting on the curb, talking about Lightbringer while his friends continued skating. Luke told me about how he'd gotten into fantasy novels in 5th grade when his parents were divorcing and he'd needed an escape. I told him about how I sometimes read the same book multiple times, finding new details each time. That's so smart, he said. I just blow through them and then forget half the stuff that happened. You're not less smart for reading differently, I said. Some people process things by experiencing them quickly. Some people need to take their time. Neither is wrong. He looked at me with this expression I couldn't quite read. You're pretty wise, you know that. I just read a lot about stuff, learning styles and stuff. It's cool. You're like really smart. In art club, I can tell you're actually thinking about things, not just doing them randomly like I do. You're not random. Your art is incredible. The way you understand composition and color and... I stopped myself before I went into a full lecture about artistic technique that I'd learned from YouTube. But Luke was smiling. You really think so? Obviously, everyone thinks so. Not everyone. His smile dimmed a little. My dad thinks art is a waste of time. I should focus on practical skills for the real world. He made air quotes, and I could hear the hurt underneath the sarcasm. I struggled for words. That's not fair. Art is part of the real world. It's how we understand ourselves and communicate, and I was getting passionate now, the way I did about things I cared about. And beauty matters. Creating things matters. Your art matters. Luke was staring at me now, really staring, and I felt suddenly self-conscious. Sorry, I mumbled. I get worked up about stuff sometimes. Don't apologize. His voice was quiet. Nobody's ever defended my art like that before. We sat there for a moment in this weird, charged silence. Then Riley called for Luke to help with something, and the moment broke. But something had shifted. I could feel it. Chapter 7. The Problem with Luke Patterson. The thing about Luke Patterson, I was discovering, was that he wasn't what everyone thought he was. Yes, he was cool. Yes, he could skateboard and had been suspended and wore his hair in that effortlessly messy way that probably took no effort at all. But he was also kind of lonely. I started noticing it in art club. The way he'd light up when someone asked about his drawings. The way he always arrived early and left late, like he didn't want to go home. The way he collected compliments like they were rare and precious things. His parents are divorced, Riley told me one Thursday when Luke had left early for a dentist appointment. Pretty messy. His dad remarried and had new kids, barely sees Luke anymore. His mom works a lot. That's awful, I said. She shrugged. Luke doesn't talk about it much. Just pours everything into his art. I looked at the drawing he'd been working on, a knight slaying a dragon, except the knight looked sad and the dragon looked tired, and the whole thing had this melancholy feel that probably said more about Luke's inner state than any conversation would. He likes you, you know, Riley said suddenly. I nearly dropped my pencil. What? Luke, he thinks you're interesting, keeps talking about how you actually think about stuff, how you're not fake like other people. Words had left me again. Just thought you should know. She went back to her painting, leaving me to sit there and malfunction quietly. Luke liked me, thought I was interesting, thought I was real. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, trying to process everything. I'd started this whole thing with strategies and plans, trying to make someone notice me. But somewhere along the way, it had stopped being about making Luke like me and started being about actually knowing him. The cool kid exterior, the art that said everything he couldn't, the way he kept trying that kickflip even after failing, the hurt in his voice when he talked about his dad. I didn't just like Luke Patterson anymore. I understood him, which made everything so much more complicated. Chapter 8. The love confession. That isn't really a love confession. It happened on a Wednesday. We were in art club, and Luke was frustrated. He'd been working on this massive canvas for weeks, a phoenix rising from ashes, all reds and golds and oranges. It was supposed to be for the school art show, but nothing was working. The colors were wrong, the composition was off, and he kept painting over sections and starting again. This is garbage, he said, throwing down his brush. Paint splattered across the table. It's not. It is. It's trash. I should just quit. The other art club members exchanged glances. Luke didn't usually get like this. He was normally so positive, so persistent. But today, something was different. His shoulders were tight, his jaw clenched. My dad came by last night, he said quietly, staring at his painting. First time in 3 months. Took me to dinner, spent the whole time talking about his new kids. Then asked if I was still doing the art thing or if I'd found something useful to focus on. Nobody said anything. What could you say to that? Luke rubbed his eyes. I don't know why I bother sometimes. It's not like I'm even that good. And that's when something inside me snapped. Stop, I said, standing up. Just stop. Everyone looked at me. I never raised my voice. I never made scenes, but I was making one now. Luke Patterson, you are one of the most talented artists I've ever seen. And I'm not just saying that. I'm not blowing smoke or being nice. I'm stating an objective fact. I pointed at his phoenix. That painting, it's not garbage. The colors aren't wrong. They're bold. The composition isn't off. It's dynamic. You're not failing. You're iterating. You're pushing yourself to be better. And that's terrifying. And so you want to quit because quitting is easier than risking that this might not be perfect. I was breathing hard now, and Luke was staring at me with wide eyes. But here's the thing about art and life and everything else. Nothing's perfect. Nothing's ever finished. We just decide when to stop. And you can't let your dad or anyone else make you stop doing the thing that makes you you. Because your art is you, Luke. It's all the things you can't say and all the things you feel too much and all the beauty you see in a world that can be pretty ugly sometimes. And it matters. You matter. Silence. Complete, total silence. Oh God, I'd done it. I'd gone full dramatic monologue, and now everyone was staring at me, and Luke probably thought I was insane. Sorry, I mumbled, sitting back down. Sorry. More silence. Then, Mia, I looked up. Luke was still staring at me, but now he was smiling. Not his usual grin, but something softer, something that looked almost like wonder. Thank you, he said quietly. And then he went back to his painting, but this time he didn't paint over anything. He just kept going, kept building, kept creating. Mrs. Chen caught me on my way out after art club. That was quite a speech, she said. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have. Don't apologize. That's the most passion I've seen from a student in years. She paused. You should write, you know. You have a way with words. I nodded, not really listening. I was too busy replaying my outburst in my head, cataloging all the ways I'd embarrassed myself. I didn't see Luke in the hallway. I didn't see him wave me over to where he was waiting by the lockers. I was too busy internally combusting. Mia! I jumped, still doing a lot of jumping around Luke. He was jogging toward me, backpack slung over one shoulder. Hey, wait up! I waited. What else could I do? That thing you said in art club. He ran a hand through his hair, looking uncertain. This was new. Luke was never uncertain. Did you mean it? Every word. Even the part about my art being me? Especially that part. He smiled, and it was the sunrise smile, the kind that made you feel like the whole world was waking up. Nobody's ever gotten it before, like really gotten it. My art's not just a hobby or whatever, it's how I make sense of things. I know. Yeah, he laughed a little. Yeah, you do. He trailed off, studying me. You're kind of amazing, you know that? My brain, error, does not compute, shut down imminent. My mouth, I'm really not. You are. You're like scary smart, but not in a mean way. And you actually care about stuff. And you brought bento boxes to lunch, which everyone thought was weird, but I think it's cool that you just do your own thing. You notice my lunch? This was the detail my brain chose to focus on? I notice a lot about you, he said, and then looked embarrassed. That sounded creepy. I just mean, we have history together, right? And math, and obviously art club. And I see you in the library sometimes, reading those giant books and making notes like you're studying for something, even though you're just reading for fun. He'd noticed. All this time I'd been implementing strategies and plans. Luke had just noticed me. I'm not cool, I blurted out. I'm not mysterious or intriguing or any of the things. I stopped myself before I revealed my entire strategic plan. What things? Nothing. I just mean, you're Luke Patterson. You're cool and talented and everyone likes you. And I'm just me. I win spelling bees and bring weird lunches and get excited about science. We don't make sense. Luke was quiet for a moment. Then he said, Can I tell you a secret? I nodded. I have no idea what I'm doing, like ever. Everyone thinks I'm so confident, but I'm just faking it, I guess, pretending I know how to be the person everyone expects. He kicked at the floor. But with you, I don't have to pretend. You just let me be confused and messy and not perfect. And that's scary, I offered. Really nice, he finished. We stood there in the empty hallway, lockers humming around us, afternoon light slanting through the windows. Two awkward middle schoolers who'd somehow found each other in the chaos. For the record, Luke said, spelling bees are cool, and your lunches always look way better than my Hot Pockets. And getting excited about stuff is like the best thing about you. You care so much about everything. It's awesome. My eyes were getting suspiciously wet. This was fine. Everything was fine. I was not about to cry in front of Luke Patterson. Do you want to hang out sometime? Luke asked. Like outside of art club and school? We could go to the bookstore, talk about Lightbringer, or just hang out. Was this happening? Was Luke Patterson asking me to hang out? Just the two of us? Like a date? The words escaped before I could stop them. Luke's face turned red, bright red. Yeah, maybe? If you want. It doesn't have to be. We can just be friends. I just thought... Yes, I interrupted his rambling. Yes, I'd like that. The date thing, if that's what you're asking. Really? Really? His smile could have powered a small city. Cool. That's cool. Very cool, I agreed, and we both stood there grinning like idiots. I should probably go, Luke said, not moving. Yeah, me too, I said, also not moving. Saturday? The bookstore on Main Street? 2:00? It's a date, I said, and then wanted to die because I'd actually said it's a date out loud. But Luke just laughed. Yeah, it is. Epilogue: What I learned about love and other complicated things. Saturday's date was perfect, by which I mean it was awkward and weird, and we both talked too much about books and not enough about anything else. And at one point, Luke accidentally knocked over a display, and we had to help clean it up. And it was absolutely, completely, wonderfully imperfect. We didn't kiss, we didn't hold hands, we just talked and laughed and existed in the same space, and it was enough. Because here's what I learned about love, Luke Patterson, and middle school. Strategies are fine, but they can't replace genuine connection. Cool is subjective and mostly made up. The best relationships are built on actually knowing someone, not the idea of them. Sometimes the coolest thing you can do is be exactly who you are. Love isn't a problem to solve. It's a thing to experience with all its mess and confusion and terrifying vulnerability. Luke never became less cool, but I realized cool didn't matter as much as kind, creative, and real. I never became mysteriously alluring. But I became someone who spoke up, who defended the people she cared about, who wasn't afraid to be passionate. And Luke? Luke remained completely clueless about love and romance, but he knew about loyalty and creativity and seeing people for who they really were, which in the end mattered more. So, Jasmine said at lunch the following Monday, you and Luke Patterson are a thing now? We're hanging out, I said, trying to contain my smile and failing miserably. Told you, she said smugly. Just be yourself, I said, but no, you had to have strategies. The strategies helped. The strategies got you in the same room. You did the rest. She was right. Proximity had helped. Shared interests had helped. But what really worked was the moment I stopped trying to be someone I thought Luke would like and started being someone I actually was. Luke appeared at our table then, sliding into the seat next to me. This was new. Luke Patterson sitting at our table. People were definitely staring. Hey, he said, pulling out his lunch, Hot Pockets, as predicted. Hey, I replied, opening my bento box, sushi rolls, edamame, and those little octopus sausages my mom thought were adorable. Are those octopuses? Luke asked, delighted. Technically, the plural is octopi. Actually, Jasmine interrupted, it's octopuses or octopodes, depending on whether you're using English or Greek pluralization rules. Luke looked at her, then at me, then at the little octopus sausages. Then he started laughing. You guys are the best. And somehow, in the middle of the Jefferson Middle School cafeteria, with its mystery meat and its social hierarchies and its general chaos, I felt like maybe, just maybe, everything was exactly how it was supposed to be. The little girl who fell in love with the cool kid who knew nothing about love. Except maybe we both knew a little something after all. The end.